20 most shocking black actor deaths. Some of them died on set. Some died in prison cells. One died on a runway that should never have been cleared for takeoff. One was found in his apartment by neighbors who noticed the silence. And one, the most famous of them all, kept showing up to work, kept performing, kept inspiring millions of people, while his own body was systematically shutting down around him. 20 black actors, 20 deaths that stopped the world. Some for a moment, some forever. But here's the question nobody wants to answer. How many of these names did you actually know before today? Stay until number 9, because that one will genuinely break something in you. Subscribe to Remembered Lives channel and hit the notification bell. These stories were never supposed to be forgotten. Chadwick Boseman. He was T'Challa. He was Jackie Robinson. He was James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, and Storm and Norman. And through every single one of those transformations, he was secretly dying. Chadwick Aaron Boseman was born on November 29, 1976, in Anderson, South Carolina, the son of a nurse and an entrepreneur who raised him in a community rooted in faith and hard work. He attended Howard University, where he studied directing, not acting, which tells you something about the scope of his creative vision from the very beginning. He wasn't just thinking about performing, he was thinking about storytelling. His screen breakthrough came in 2013 with 42, in which he played Jackie Robinson with a dignity and athletic precision that left critics searching for superlatives. What followed was a run of biographical performances virtually unmatched in modern cinema. James Brown in Get On Up, 2014. Thurgood Marshall in Marshall, 2017. Each character demanded a complete physical and psychological reinvention. Each time, Boseman delivered. Then came Black Panther in 2018, a $1.3 billion global phenomenon that transcended cinema and became a cultural watershed. For millions of black children worldwide, T'Challa was the first superhero who looked like them and spoke of a homeland that wasn't defined by suffering. Boseman understood the weight of that responsibility completely and carried it with extraordinary grace. What the world didn't know was that he had been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016, at just 39 years old. He told virtually no one. While filming Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame, Da 5 Bloods, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, he was undergoing chemotherapy and multiple surgeries between takes. His trainer knew. His agent knew. Almost no one else did. By 2020, the cancer had progressed to stage 4. On August 28, 2020, Chadwick Boseman died at his home in Los Angeles, surrounded by his wife, Taylor Simone Ledward, and his family. He was 43 years old. The announcement became the most liked tweet in Twitter history at that time. World leaders issued statements, co-stars wept publicly, and an entire generation of children suddenly understood that their king had been fighting a private war the whole time, and had never once let it show. Sidney Poitier. Before Chadwick Boseman, before Denzel Washington, before any black actor could dream of a leading role in a major Hollywood film, there was Sidney Poitier, the man who kicked the door open and held it there with his entire body. Sidney Poitier was born on February 20th, 1927, in Miami, Florida, while his Bahamian parents were visiting from Cat Island in the Bahamas. His birth was premature and unexpected. He wasn't supposed to survive the night. That he did felt, in retrospect, like destiny asserting itself with unusual force. He grew up on Cat Island, one of the most remote places in the Western Hemisphere, with no electricity, no running water, no movie theaters. He arrived in New York as a teenager with barely $1 in his pocket and a Bahamian accent so thick he was initially rejected from every acting program he auditioned for. He taught himself to speak American English by listening to the radio for months. That stubbornness, that absolute refusal to accept the boundaries others drew around him, defined everything that came after. In 1964, Poitier became the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for Lilies of the Field, 1963. He had already done The Blackboard Jungle, 1955, A Raisin in the Sun, 1961, A Patch of Blue, 1965. Then came 1967, a single extraordinary year that produced 3 landmark films: To Sir with Love, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and In the Heat of the Night. That year, he was the highest-grossing box office star in America, a black man at the peak of the civil rights era, carrying films on his shoulders that white studios had told him no one would watch. His impact extended far beyond entertainment. Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009. Queen Elizabeth II made him an honorary Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. He served as the Bahamian ambassador to Japan from 1997 to 2007. On January 6, 2022, Sidney Poitier passed away at his home in Beverly Hills at age 94. The cause was cardiopulmonary failure, with Alzheimer's disease and prostate cancer listed as contributing factors. Broadway theaters dimmed their lights in his honor. Every black actor working today owes something to this man. Most of them owe everything. Cicely Tyson. She once said that she never took a role she was ashamed of. In an industry that spent decades offering black women parts as maids, Jezebels, and stereotypes, that commitment was nothing short of revolutionary. Cicely Tyson was born on December 19, 1924, in Harlem, New York City, the daughter of immigrants from Nevis in the Caribbean. Her childhood was marked by deep religious faith, extreme poverty, and a mother who initially opposed her daughter's entry into entertainment as morally corrupt. Tyson paid little attention to that opposition. She modeled, she acted in community theater, and she forced her way into rooms that weren't designed to have her in them. Her breakthrough arrived with Sounder, 1972, in which she played Rebecca Morgan, the wife of a Louisiana sharecropper whose husband is sent to a prison labor camp. Her performance was shattering in its restraint, a masterclass in conveying devastating emotion through the smallest physical details. She received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, only the second black woman to be nominated in that category at that time. That same year, she starred in the television movie The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, 1974, playing a 110-year-old formerly enslaved woman who lives to witness the civil rights movement. The performance required her to age across 100 years of screen time and earned her 2 Emmy Awards in a single night, a record. Audiences called their local television stations afterward, asking if Jane Pittman had been a real person. That is the measure of what Tyson accomplished. Over a career spanning 7 decades, she won a Tony Award, 3 Emmy Awards, and a Lifetime Achievement Oscar in 2018, at age 93. She published her memoir, Just As I Am, in January 2021. 5 days after its release, on January 28, 2021, Cicely Tyson passed away at age 96. She had completed interviews promoting the book just days before her death, still sharp, still engaged, still fighting for the stories she believed deserved to be told. She was 96 years old and had not wasted a single one of them. Andre Braugher. Nobody in his immediate circle knew he was sick. His co-stars found out when the rest of the world did, which is to say, after he was already gone. Andre Keith Braugher was born on July 1, 1962 in Chicago, Illinois, the son of a postal worker and a hospital administrator. He grew up in the South Side, where he developed an early and intense love for theater, eventually studying at Stanford University before earning his Master of Fine Arts degree from the Juilliard School, training ground for some of the most technically accomplished actors in American history. His career-defining role arrived with Homicide: Life on the Street, 1993 to 1999, the NBC drama often cited as one of the greatest police procedurals ever made. As Detective Frank Pembleton, a relentlessly intense, brilliantly cerebral investigator whose interrogation scenes were virtually Shakespearean in their construction, Braugher delivered a performance so complete that it earned him an Emmy Award in 1998 and a permanent place in the conversation about the finest dramatic television acting ever committed to film. Then came the second act that most actors never get: Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 2013 to 2021, in which he played Captain Raymond Holt with such perfectly calibrated comic deadpan that an entirely new generation discovered what Braugher could do. He won a second Emmy for Thief, 2006, along the way. 2 Emmys, 2 completely different registers, one extraordinary artist. His film work, Glory, 1989, Primal Fear, 1996, City of Angels, 1998, She Said, 2022, consistently reminded audiences that whatever Braugher appeared in became better for his presence. He had kept his lung cancer diagnosis entirely private. On December 11, 2023, Andre Braugher died at his home in South Orange, New Jersey. He was 61 years old. His publicist confirmed lung cancer as the cause 3 days later. His Brooklyn Nine-Nine co-stars, who had worked alongside him for 8 years, expressed complete shock. That privacy, fierce, total, uncompromising, was entirely in character for a man who had always let the work speak. Louis Gossett Jr. He was drafted by the New York Knickerbockers in 1958. He chose acting instead. Professional basketball's loss became cinema's extraordinary gain. Louis Cameron Gossett Jr. was born on May 27, 1936, in the Coney Island section of Brooklyn, New York, the son of a porter and a nurse. A high school basketball injury redirected him toward theater. An English teacher pushed him to audition for a Broadway play, and at 16, he landed the role in Take a Giant Step, 1953, which the New York Times named one of the 10 best Broadway productions of that year. A star had arrived, though it would take decades for Hollywood to fully acknowledge it. His television breakthrough came with Roots, 1977, the landmark ABC miniseries that drew over 100 million viewers across its broadcast and fundamentally shifted American television's engagement with the history of slavery. Gossett played Fiddler, a complex, morally nuanced, enslaved man, and won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor. 3 years later, in An Officer and a Gentleman, 1982, he played Gunnery Sergeant Emile Foley with such volcanic authority that he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, becoming the first black man to win in that category. Only Hattie McDaniel and Sidney Poitier had won acting Oscars before him. The award should have made him a permanent A-list fixture. It didn't, a reality he spoke about with characteristic candor in interviews throughout his career, acknowledging that Hollywood's racism had a ceiling, even for Oscar winners. He kept working anyway, accumulating over 200 screen credits across 7 decades, from Enemy Mine, 1985, to Watchmen, 2019, to The Color Purple, 2023, his final major role. On March 29, 2024, Louis Gossett Jr. passed away at a rehabilitation center in Santa Monica, California. He was 87 years old. The cause was chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, with heart failure and atrial fibrillation as contributing factors. He had broken the door open. He had refused to let it close, and he had kept working until there was simply no more time left to work. Michael K. Williams. The scar on his face was real. He received it in a bar fight on his 25th birthday. He wore it the rest of his life, and somehow it became one of the most recognizable features in American television history. Michael Kenneth Williams was born on November 22, 1969, in Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York, and raised in the East Flatbush neighborhood by his Bahamian mother. His early life was turbulent. The streets of Brooklyn in the 1980s offered few easy paths, but his extraordinary physical presence and natural charisma eventually found an outlet in dance. He became a professional dancer and choreographer, touring with artists including Madonna, Crystal Waters, and George Michael before a chance encounter redirected his life toward acting. He was cast as Omar Little in The Wire in 2002, almost entirely on the strength of how he carried himself in a room. David Simon and the show's creators saw something primal and authentic in Williams that no amount of formal acting training could manufacture. Omar, the shotgun-wielding, code of honor-bound stick-up man who robbed drug dealers and whistled spirituals while walking through West Baltimore, became one of the most celebrated characters in the history of American television. Williams received no Emmy nomination for the role. To this day, that omission is considered one of the most egregious oversights in the award's history. He followed Omar with an equally complex performance as Chalky White in Boardwalk Empire, 2010 to 2014, then delivered acclaimed work in Lovecraft Country, 2020. He had an Emmy nomination for the latter when he died. On September 6, 2021, Williams was found dead in his apartment in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn. He was 51 years old. The medical examiner determined the cause of death to be acute combined drug intoxication involving fentanyl, p-fluorofentanyl, heroin, and cocaine. He had spoken publicly about his struggles with substance abuse for years and about the difficulty of separating himself from the traumatized characters he'd portrayed. In the end, the demons he depicted on screen found him off it. Lance Reddick. He was found at his home on the morning of March 17, 2023. The same day, the first South by Southwest screening of John Wick Chapter 4 was scheduled to take place. He had been preparing to promote it. Instead, the world was preparing to mourn him. Lance Solomon Reddick was born on June 7, 1962, in Baltimore, Maryland, into a family of educators. His father, a high school teacher, his mother, a classically trained pianist. He first pursued music with the same intensity he would later bring to acting, earning a Bachelor of Music degree from the Eastman School of Music at the University of Rochester, then a Master of Fine Arts from the Yale School of Drama. That dual foundation, musical precision and theatrical rigor, gave his performances a quality that set him apart from virtually everyone working in his medium, an almost architectural control of silence, rhythm, and presence. He built his television reputation slowly and deliberately. Oz, 2000, The Wire, 2002 to 2008, as the morally conflicted Lieutenant Cedric Daniels, Fringe, 2008 to 2013, as the stoic Philip Broyles, Bosch, 2014 to 2022, as the politically calculating Deputy Chief Irvin Irving. Every character was different. Every character was riveting. Every character occupied a moral gray zone that required extraordinary nuance to navigate without alienating the audience. In film, the John Wick franchise gave him Charon, the impeccably composed concierge of the Continental Hotel, possibly the most perfectly cast role in that franchise, across all 4 main entries. John Wick Chapter 4 was released 11 days after his death. He also released a jazz and R&B album, Contemplations and Remembrances, in 2007. He voiced Commander Zavala in the Destiny video game franchise across nearly a decade. He was, in every medium he touched, exceptional. The coroner determined the cause of death to be coronary artery disease and atherosclerotic heart disease. He was 60 years old. No one saw it coming. John Wick Chapter 4 became a tribute. Percy Jackson and the Olympians featured him posthumously as Zeus, and the industry he had served so well finally gave him the attention he had always deserved. Too late. Erica Ashe. She had been diagnosed with breast cancer the same year she was cast on Mad TV. She told almost nobody. She underwent treatment while making people laugh week after week, night after night, and kept the entire thing to herself, with a discipline that was both admirable and heartbreaking. Erica Chantal Ashe was born on September 19, 1977, in Tallahassee, Florida, the daughter of a U.S. Army captain and chaplain and a mathematics teacher. A military childhood meant constant relocation. Germany, various states, a peripatetic early life that might have destabilized someone with a weaker sense of self. Ashe used it as material. She graduated from Emory University in Atlanta with a degree in pre-medicine, fully intending to become a doctor, before a trip to Japan, where she became a backup singer and runway model, redirected her life entirely. She returned to the United States and began carving out a space in entertainment that required her to excel simultaneously in comedy, drama, music, and physical performance. The Big Gay Sketch Show, 2006 to 2007, was her first major television credit. Mad TV, 2008, established her as a sketch comedian of genuine range, capable of impressions, Naomi Campbell, Whoopi Goldberg, Michelle Obama, Monique, that went beyond mimicry into genuine character construction. Real Husbands of Hollywood, 2013 to 2016, gave her Kevin Hart's leading lady and a platform in front of millions of BET viewers. Then came Survivor's Remorse, 2014 to 2017, the Star's drama in which she played M. Chuck, a sharp, emotionally complex attorney navigating wealth, identity, and family loyalty, and earned an NAACP Image Award nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress. The cancer returned, this time as stage 4. It consumed 70% of her spine. She had screws installed to stabilize it. She chose, in her words, to live boldly, jumping off cliffs in Mexico, continuing to work, continuing to support others, telling only 3 close friends and her parents. Her final screen appearance was a January 2024 episode of Extended Family on NBC. On July 28, 2024, Erica Ashe died peacefully in Los Angeles, surrounded by her loved ones. She was 46 years old. The entertainment world, which had mostly not known she was sick, responded with an outpouring of love that made clear exactly how wide her reach had been. Chance Perdomo. He was on his way to film the 2nd season of Gen V when the accident happened. He never arrived. Chance Perdomo was born on October 20th, 1996, in Los Angeles, California, to a mother with Guatemalan and Dominican heritage. He moved to Southampton, England as a young child, growing up in the UK and developing a cultural duality, American roots, British sensibility, Latino heritage, that gave him a textural richness most actors spend decades trying to manufacture artificially. He held dual British and American citizenship and drew on both worlds with ease. His formal training began at the National Youth Theatre in London, where he developed the theatrical discipline that would underpin everything that followed. His breakthrough role came with the BBC Three film Killed by My Debt, 2018, in which he played Jerome Rogers, a real-life young man hounded into suicide by debt collectors. The performance was devastating and precise, earning Perdomo a BAFTA nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role and the title of BAFTA Breakthrough Brit in 2019. He was 22 years old. Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, 2018 to 2020, gave him Ambrose Spellman, Sabrina's centuries-old, house-arrested, pansexual warlock cousin, across all 4 seasons. The role introduced him to a global audience and demonstrated that his range extended comfortably from raw social realism to stylized supernatural fantasy. Amazon Prime's Gen V, 2023, the acclaimed The Boys spin-off, then cast him as Andre Anderson, a student superhero wrestling with magnetic powers and the weight of his father's legacy. Critical reception was exceptional. Season 2 was already in production. Around March 29th to 30th, 2024, while traveling to begin filming Gen V's 2nd season, Perdomo was involved in a solo motorcycle accident. No other individuals were involved. He was 27 years old. The entire Gen V cast released a statement expressing devastation. BAFTA paid tribute. Production was indefinitely delayed. An actor who had been building towards something genuinely extraordinary simply ran out of road, 27 years old. The sorrow of that number is almost impossible to articulate. Yaphet Kotto. He once turned down the role of Darth Vader. He said the costume didn't interest him. That is, perhaps, all you need to know about Yaphet Kotto's relationship with Hollywood convention. Yaphet Frederick Kotto was born on November 15, 1939, in Harlem, New York City, to a father of Cameroonian royal descent and a mother with Panamanian and West Indian heritage. His background was genuinely international, genuinely complex, and he carried that complexity into every role he played. He trained as an actor from his teens, studying at the Actors Studio, and developed a commanding physical presence, 6 feet 2 inches, broad-shouldered, with a voice of unusual depth and authority that made him impossible to overlook. His stage work in New York during the 1960s established his credentials before Hollywood found him. The Thomas Crown Affair, 1968, was an early film credit. Then came the role that introduced him to international audiences, Dr. Kananga / Mr. Big in Live and Let Die, 1973. The James Bond villain, the first black main antagonist in the franchise's history. Kotto played the character with an intelligence and menace that elevated the film considerably, refusing to reduce the villain to caricature when caricature would have been the easier and more expected choice. Across 110th Street, 1972, showcased his dramatic range in a gritty New York crime thriller that remains a classic of the genre. Then came Alien, 1979. Dennis Parker, the chief engineer of the Nostromo, in which Kotto was part of one of the most iconic ensemble casts in science fiction history. His performance anchored the film's human reality against its cosmic horror. Homicide: Life on the Street, 1993 to 1999, as Lieutenant Al Giardello, gave him his most sustained television work. 6 seasons of layered, authoritative performance alongside Andre Braugher. On March 15, 2021, Yaphet Kotto passed away at his home in the Philippines, where he had lived for years with his wife. He was 81. His wife confirmed the death on Facebook. A titan of American cinema, gone quietly, far from the industry that had never quite known what to do with a man of his magnitude. Roger E. Mosley. For 8 years, he flew helicopters, delivered one-liners, and wore sunglasses with an ease that most people spend entire careers trying to achieve. He made it look so natural that people forgot it was a performance. Roger Earl Mosley was born on December 18, 1938, in Los Angeles, California, and grew up in the Watts neighborhood during a period when Watts was simultaneously one of the most culturally rich and economically neglected communities in the city. He developed his toughness and his humor from that environment, qualities that would later make him invaluable on screen. He served in the U.S. Army before turning to acting, building his career through stage work and small film and television roles throughout the 1960s and 1970s. His early film work included significant performances in Terminal Island, 1973, Hitman, 1972, and Semi-Tough, 1977, establishing him as a presence capable of anchoring scenes in both dramatic and comedic registers. He played heavyweight champion Sonny Liston in The Greatest, 1977, a biopic about Muhammad Ali, with physical authority and psychological complexity that went well beyond what the role required. Then, in 1980, he was cast as Theodore T.C. Calvin in Magnum P.I., the CBS detective series starring Tom Selleck. The show ran for 8 seasons and 162 episodes, consistently ranking among the top-rated programs on American television throughout the early 1980s. T.C., Vietnam veteran, helicopter pilot, loyal friend, proprietor of Island Hoppers, was one of American television's most beloved recurring characters, and Mosley inhabited him with a warmth and wit that made the friendship at the show's core feel genuinely real. After Magnum, he continued working steadily in film and television for 3 more decades, never losing his connection to the craft that had defined his best years. On August 7, 2022, Roger E. Mosley died from injuries sustained in a car accident in Los Angeles. He was 83 years old. His daughter confirmed his passing on social media, noting that he had been surrounded by family. The original Magnum P.I. cast released a joint statement. TC had made his final flight. John Witherspoon. He played Ice Cube's father on screen. In real life, Ice Cube called him family. And when he died without warning on a Wednesday afternoon in October, the entire comedy world stopped and tried to remember the last time it had laughed that hard, and realized the answer was probably whenever John Witherspoon was in the room. John Witherspoon was born on January 27, 1942, in Detroit, Michigan, one of 11 children in a family that found humor in scarcity and warmth in community. He moved to Los Angeles as a young man and ground his way through the stand-up comedy circuit, the same clubs, the same late nights, the same brutal process of finding out what was funny and what wasn't, for years, before landing the television and film work that would define his legacy. His acting career began with small roles in the 1970s and built steadily through the 1980s, with appearances on The Richard Pryor Show, The Wayans Brothers, and numerous other comedy programs where his precise, exasperated delivery and elastic facial expressions made him a scene-stealing presence, regardless of how much screen time he was given. The Friday franchise, Friday, 1995, Next Friday, 2000, Friday After Next, 2002, made him immortal. As Willie Jones, Ice Cube's long-suffering, outrageously funny father, Witherspoon created a character whose specific brand of profane wisdom became one of the most quoted in Black American comedy. The scenes between him and Cube crackle with a familiarity and affection that feels completely unperformable, as though the camera had simply stumbled upon a real father and son going about their day. He also voiced Robert Freeman, the grandfather, in the Boondocks animated series, 2005 to 2014, bringing the same perfectly pitched indignation to an entirely different medium. On October 29, 2019, John Witherspoon died suddenly at his home in Sherman Oaks, California. He was 77. His family confirmed his passing without disclosing a specific cause. Friday After Next had always promised a fourth installment. It will now never have its Willie Jones. Clarence Gilyard Jr. He played a villain in Die Hard and a hero in Walker, Texas Ranger, and in both cases, he was the most watchable person in any scene he inhabited. Clarence Gilyard Jr. was born on December 24, 1955, in Moses Lake, Washington, and grew up in a military family that moved frequently, giving him the adaptability and observational skills that would later serve him enormously as an actor. He attended California State University, Dominguez Hills, where he studied theater and began developing the physical precision and calm authority that would become his professional signature. His early career produced one of the most memorable supporting performances of the 1980s. Theo, the computer hacker hired by Hans Gruber in Die Hard, 1988. The film frequently cited as one of the greatest action movies ever made. With minimal screen time, Gilyard made Theo both funny and credible, a specialist at the top of his field who happened to be on the wrong side of history. The line, "You asked for miracles, Theo, I give you the FBI," delivered by Alan Rickman as Gruber as a result of Theo's expert work, remains one of the film's most beloved moments. Then came Matlock, 1986 to 1993, in which he played private investigator Conrad McMasters alongside Andy Griffith for 7 seasons. The show averaged 30 million weekly viewers at its peak. 30 million. Gilyard was in millions of American living rooms every week for most of a decade. Walker, Texas Ranger, 1993 to 2001, with Chuck Norris, then gave him James Trivet, Texas Ranger, loyal partner, moral compass of the show, for 8 more seasons. He followed his acting career with a second vocation as a professor of theater arts at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he taught and mentored students until his health declined. On November 28, 2022, Clarence Gilyard Jr. passed away. He was 66 years old. The university confirmed his death. No cause was publicly specified. He had kept his illness private with the same quiet dignity he had brought to every role and to every student he had ever taught. Meshach Taylor. He spent 5 years playing a mannequin brought to life in a department store. He spent 9 years as the most flamboyant, most beloved member of an Atlanta design firm. And in between, he worked constantly, because people who understood talent never let him sit still for long. Meshach Taylor was born on April 11, 1947 in Boston, Massachusetts, and grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, a city whose music, culture, and theatrical tradition seeped into everything he did. He studied at the University of Houston and built his early career through regional theater and television, developing the comic timing and physical expressiveness that would eventually make him a household name. Mannequin, 1987, was his first major film role, playing Hollywood Montrose, the outrageous, scene-obliterating department store employee who helps bring the title character to life. The role was a gift and a challenge simultaneously. Hollywood could easily have been a flat stereotype, a one-note caricature. Taylor turned him into someone real and irreplaceable, so beloved that he returned for Mannequin on the Move, 1991. Designing Women, 1986 to 1993, was where he spent the most defining chapter of his career. As Anthony Bouvier, the delivery man turned office fixture who eventually became a full partner at Sugarbaker & Associates, Taylor was the warmth and the wit at the center of a show full of warmth and wit. His chemistry with Dixie Carter, Delta Burke, Annie Potts, and Jean Smart was so natural that it seemed less like acting and more like a documentary about people who genuinely loved each other. He appeared in 159 episodes. He continued working in film and television throughout the 1990s and 2000s, never disappearing from screens for long. He had been battling colorectal cancer for some time when his condition worsened in 2014. On June 28, 2014, Meshach Taylor passed away at his home in Chatsworth, California. He was 67 years old, surrounded by his family. His wife of 26 years, Bianca Ferguson, confirmed his passing. The Designing Women family released statements of profound loss. Anthony Bouvier had brought out the best in everyone he encountered, on screen and off. Bill Nunn. For most of his career, the world knew him by two roles. One was a man who died carrying a boombox. The other was a man who spent 3 Spider-Man movies protecting a city. Both of them, in completely different ways, became icons. William Goldwyn Nunn III was born on October 20, 1952, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the son of William Nunn Jr., a legendary sports editor for the Pittsburgh Courier who helped integrate the NFL by scouting black players from historically black colleges and universities for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The sense of mission, the commitment to fighting for visibility on a stage that wasn't designed to include you, was clearly inherited. Nunn studied at Morehouse College in Atlanta before beginning his acting career, which built gradually through stage and regional theater work before attracting the attention of director Spike Lee. Do the Right Thing, 1989, cast him as Radio Raheem, the young man who walks through the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood with Public Enemy blasting from his boombox, who becomes the film's emotional and moral fulcrum, and whose death at the hands of police triggers the riot that ends the film. It is one of the most devastating sequences in American cinema, and Nunn's performance in the moments before Radio Raheem's death, his terror, his humanity, his sudden vulnerability, makes it impossible to watch without grief. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, 2002, 2004, 2007. Then gave him J. Jonah Jameson's long-suffering editor, Robbie Robertson, the moral conscience of the Daily Bugle, the one person in the room consistently trying to do the right thing across all 3 films. He had been living with leukemia for years when his health declined significantly in 2016. On September 24, 2016, Bill Nunn passed away in his hometown of Pittsburgh. He was 63 years old. Spike Lee paid tribute immediately. His Spider-Man colleagues expressed grief and admiration. Radio Raheem's boombox is still blasting somewhere. It always will be. Robin Harris. He was on the verge of everything. A film career, a stand-up special, a character children loved, a level of stardom that had been years in the making and was finally arriving. He died on a Sunday morning and didn't live to see any of it. Robin Harris was born on August 30th, 1953 in Chicago, Illinois, and grew up in South Central Los Angeles, a neighborhood that gave him material, gave him perspective, and gave him the gritty, unpolished honesty that made his comedy feel like something different from anything else happening in stand-up at the time. He developed his craft through Los Angeles comedy clubs, most notably the Comedy Act Theater on Crenshaw Boulevard, where he became the house comedian and the undisputed master of ceremonies, a performer who could control a room with nothing but a microphone and his presence. His style was rooted in specificity. He didn't do abstract observational comedy. He told you about real people, relatives, neighbors, strangers on the bus, with such precision and affection that audiences recognized the characters immediately, even if they'd never met them. He coined the phrase BB's kids to describe a specific type of unruly, uncontrollable children brought to social events by a woman named BB. And the bit became so legendary that it was posthumously adapted into an animated film in 1992. Spike Lee cast him as the fast-talking, irreverent Slim in Do the Right Thing, 1989. And the small role became a showcase for everything Harris could do. House Party, 1990, then gave him his largest film role to date as Pop, the strict but loving father, a performance of genuine warmth that showed his dramatic range. He had a heart condition that was known, but not considered immediately life-threatening. On March 18, 1990, Robin Harris died in his sleep in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he had been performing. He was 36 years old. House Party was still in theaters. BB's kids wouldn't arrive for 2 more years. Everything was about to happen. And then it didn't. Paul Winfield. His Academy Award nomination came from a 1972 film about a sharecropper's family in Louisiana. He shared the screen with Cicely Tyson. Between the two of them, they created something that film schools still study today, a masterwork of restrained, devastatingly truthful performance. Paul Edward Winfield was born on May 22, 1939 in Los Angeles, California, and grew up in a household where education was treated as the most reliable path out of poverty. He attended multiple colleges: Los Angeles City College, University of Portland, Stanford University, and the University of California, Los Angeles, before committing fully to acting, which he approached with the same intellectual rigor he had brought to his academic life. His film debut came in the late 1960s, and by 1972, he had landed the role that would define a chapter of American cinema: Nathan Lee Morgan in Sounder, a black father in 1930s Louisiana who was arrested and sent to a labor camp for stealing food for his starving family. The performance required him to convey an entire man's dignity, grief, love, and endurance across scenes of extraordinary emotional demand. He was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor. It was only the 3rd such nomination for a black actor in the award's history. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, 1982, gave him Captain Tyrrell, a role that became beloved among science fiction audiences for the quiet humanity Winfield brought to a character whose fate is one of the film's most affecting moments. The Terminator, 1984, cast him as Lieutenant Ed Traxler in the film that launched James Cameron's career. He appeared in Presumed Innocent, 1990, Cliffhanger, 1993, and Mars Attacks, 1996, always bringing more to his scenes than the material strictly required. His television work was equally substantial, including an Emmy Award for Roots: The Next Generations, 1979. On March 7, 2004, Paul Winfield died in Los Angeles from a heart attack. He was 64 years old. He had been living with diabetes for years. An actor of extraordinary refinement, discipline, and intelligence, gone far too soon, remembered far too seldom. Aaliyah. She was 22 years old and had already redefined what a pop star could be. The music, the movies, the fashion, the movement, all of it completely hers, and all of it cut off on a runway in the Bahamas on a Saturday night in August. Aaliyah Dana Houghton was born on January 16, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Detroit, Michigan by parents who recognized her gifts early and built their lives around nurturing them. Her uncle by marriage was Jomo Hankerson, a music executive who introduced her to R. Kelly at age 12. At 15, she released her debut album, Age Ain't Nothin' But a Number, 1994, a record that immediately demonstrated she possessed something rare, a voice of silk and smoke, simultaneously girlish and sophisticated, floating over production with an effortlessness that made technically demanding singing sound like breathing. The association with R. Kelly ended badly, details of which have since been extensively documented and litigated, and Aaliyah moved forward, linking with producers Timbaland and Missy Elliott for her second album, One in a Million, 1996. That collaboration changed popular music. Timbaland's skeletal, rhythm-forward beats were unlike anything on radio at the time, and Aaliyah's vocals, understated, conversational, riding the groove rather than fighting it, created a template that artists from Beyoncé to The Weeknd to Drake have drawn from ever since. The album sold over 8 million copies worldwide. Then she pivoted to film. Romeo Must Die, 2000, with Jet Li, proved she could anchor an action movie with genuine screen presence. Queen of the Damned, 2002, was already filmed and awaiting release. She had been cast in the Matrix sequels, roles that would have placed her at the center of one of cinema's biggest franchises. A third album was nearly complete. On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah and 8 members of her team boarded a small Cessna 402 at Marsh Harbor Airport in the Bahamas after completing the music video for Rock the Boat. The plane was overloaded. Federal investigators later confirmed it was carrying approximately 700 pounds more than its certified limit, and the pilot, Blackwell Ludovic, was found to have traces of cocaine and alcohol in his system and was not licensed to fly that class of aircraft. The plane crashed seconds after takeoff. All 9 people on board were killed. Aaliyah was 22 years old. Her posthumous album, I Care For You, 2002, debuted at number 1. Queen of the Damned was dedicated to her memory. The Matrix roles were recast, and an entire generation spent the following 2 decades listening to her voice and wondering, without an answer, what she would have become given another 20 years. Some losses are so complete, so total in what they erase of the future, that grief doesn't diminish with time. It simply changes shape. Aaliyah is one of those losses. Lloyd Avery II. His story begins with promise and ends with tragedy so complete, so unnecessary, so utterly devoid of redemption, that it reads less like a cautionary tale and more like a collision between 2 worlds that should never have intersected. Lloyd Avery II was born on June 21, 1969, in Los Angeles, California, and grew up in the Baldwin Hills neighborhood, a middle-class Black community sometimes called the Black Beverly Hills, in a household where his younger brother also pursued acting. Performance was not foreign to the Avery family. It was, in fact, encouraged. His screen career began in the early 1990s with small television roles, building the kind of resume that suggested a solid, working actor finding his footing. His break arrived with John Singleton's Boys in the Hood, 1991, one of the most important American films of the decade, a raw and devastating portrait of young Black men navigating gang violence, poverty, and systemic failure in South Central Los Angeles. Avery played a character known simply as Knucklehead 2, one of the gang members who terrorizes the neighborhood and whose actions drive the film toward its heartbreaking conclusion. The role was small but indelible. Avery brought a coiled menace to his scenes that made the threat he represented feel completely real. He followed it with an appearance in Poetic Justice, 1993, also directed by Singleton, alongside Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur. 2 films, 2 of the defining Black cinema works of the early 1990s. The trajectory suggested someone on the way up, but somewhere in those years, The line between the characters Avery was playing and the life he was living began to dissolve. He became involved with gang activity in Los Angeles in ways that went far beyond any professional research or neighborhood connection. Legal trouble mounted. By the late 1990s, his acting career had effectively ended, not from a lack of talent, but from choices that placed him in proximity to real violence rather than performed violence. In 2001, Lloyd Avery II was convicted of double murder for the 1999 shooting deaths of 2 people in Los Angeles and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was sent to Pelican Bay State Prison, one of California's most severe maximum security facilities, known for long-term solitary confinement and extreme gang-related violence. On September 4, 2005, Avery was found dead in his cell. He had been beaten and strangled by his cellmate. He was 36 years old. The circumstances of the attack reflected the brutal internal politics of prison gang culture, a world that had claimed him years before his physical death. He arrived in Hollywood with talent, with opportunity, with a family that believed in performance as a legitimate path forward. What happened between those early films in that prison cell is a story about how completely environment can overwhelm talent when the structures meant to support a person are absent. John Singleton, who gave Avery his first real break, never publicly commented on his fate. Perhaps there was simply nothing adequate to say. DMX. He barked. Literally barked. At the beginning of songs, in interviews, at award shows, in the middle of concerts. And somehow, rather than being absurd, it was clarifying. Because Earl Simmons was never pretending to be anything other than exactly what he was, a man from the streets of Yonkers who had survived things that should have destroyed him, and who transformed that survival into some of the most viscerally powerful rap music ever recorded. Earl Simmons was born on December 18, 1970, in Mount Vernon, New York, and raised in Yonkers, a city directly north of the Bronx that occupies a specific, difficult position in the geography of New York poverty. His childhood was defined by abandonment, group homes, an abusive household, and an introduction to crack cocaine at age 14, administered by an older mentor figure who gave him a laced blunt without telling him what was in it. That moment, a betrayal by someone he trusted during the most vulnerable years of his life, haunted and shaped him for the next 3 decades. He found rap in that darkness and made it his lifeline. His debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, 1998, entered the Billboard 200 at number 1, making him the first artist in history to have a debut album debut at the top spot in that fashion. His second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, was released the same year and also debuted at number 1. In 1998 alone, DMX became the only artist to release 2 number-1 albums in a single calendar year. Total album sales across his career exceeded 74 million copies worldwide. His music existed in a register that most rap had never occupied, simultaneously aggressive and spiritual, street-hardened and openly vulnerable. Prayer tracks appeared on nearly every album. He spoke to God directly, honestly, without performance of piety, acknowledging his sins and his failures with the same unflinching honesty he brought to his street anthems. Songs like Slippin', Already, and Lord Give Me a Sign documented a man genuinely wrestling with his demons in real time, and losing, and standing back up, and losing again. His film career was equally compelling. Belly, 1998, Romeo Must Die, 2000, Exit Wounds, 2001, Cradle to the Grave, 2003, he brought the same volcanic presence to cinema that he unleashed on stage, and Hollywood responded by casting him as a leading man repeatedly. He was, at his peak, one of the most magnetic performers in any medium. But the addiction that had begun with that laced blunt at 14 never fully released its grip. Multiple arrests, multiple attempts at rehabilitation, periods of sobriety, followed by devastating relapses. He spoke about these cycles with devastating transparency in interviews throughout his career, never hiding, never minimizing, never pretending the struggle was behind him when it wasn't. On April 2nd, 2021, DMX suffered a cardiac arrest at his home in White Plains, New York. He was hospitalized at White Plains Hospital and placed on life support. He had 15 children, who gathered alongside his former wife and other family members as the situation deteriorated. On April 9th, 2021, 1 week after the cardiac arrest, DMX was pronounced dead. He was 50 years old. The medical examiner's report cited cocaine-induced cardiac arrest as the cause. Outside White Plains Hospital, fans gathered spontaneously. They played his music from car speakers. They lit candles. They barked, in tribute, in grief, in recognition of a man who had always been exactly, painfully, honestly, himself. Hip-hop had lost voices before, but it had never lost one quite like his. 20 lives, 20 deaths that each carried something irreplaceable out of the world with them. A voice, a presence, a future full of work that will now never exist. But here is the conversation worth having. Which of these deaths was truly the most shocking? Was it the king who hid his cancer behind a crown? The legend found alone in his apartment, betrayed by the same streets he'd immortalized? The 27-year-old who never made it to his next filming location? Or the ones Hollywood quietly let fade? Too black, too difficult, too unwilling to shrink themselves for comfort. There is no clean answer. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Remembered Lives channel reads every single one. And tell us, whose story hit you hardest, and whose name you're ashamed you didn't already know?